You buy a bright red rubber ball, take your dog to a perfectly manicured green lawn, and throw it for a game of fetch. To your eyes, that red sphere practically glows against the grass. But this image shows what the dog actually sees. The red and green contrast vanishes completely, leaving a dull, brownish-gray ball disappearing into a brownish-gray background. For decades, we interpreted this as a biological defect. We assumed dogs had a broken, muted version of human eyesight. Dogs are twilight predators. Their eyes sacrifice daylight features, like color contrast, to install entirely different survival hardware, designed to track moving prey in the dark. The biological limit on a dog's color perception comes down to the retina, specifically the cone photoreceptor cells. Humans have trichromatic vision, using 3 types of cones to decode incoming light. Dogs have dichromatic vision, possessing only 2. These peak at 429 and 555 nanometers, meaning their visual reality is constructed strictly out of blues and yellows. If a human had this exact sensory configuration, a doctor would diagnose them with deuteranopia, severe red-green color blindness. This chart confirms how that biology drives behavior. When given a choice in clinical trials, dogs show a statistically significant preference for a yellow bowl over gray or blue ones. They gravitate toward the wavelengths they can clearly process. This simplified color palette is part of a larger anatomical trade-off. By utilizing fewer cones, the retina makes room for a massive population of rods, cells that can't see hue but are incredibly sensitive to the faint light of dusk and dawn. Sitting directly behind the dog's retina is a specialized biological layer called the tapetum lucidum. This structure has up to 20 tiers of tightly packed, zinc-rich cells operating as a biological mirror. Scarce photons pass through the retina, hit this mirror, and bounce back, giving rod cells a second chance to absorb the light. When you catch a dog's eyes in your headlights, that eerie yellow-green glow is the tapetum lucidum reflecting light back at you. By doubling the efficiency of available photons, the absolute light threshold of the eye drops drastically. A backyard that looks pitch black to us is a brightly illuminated hunting ground for them. Gathering light is only half the equation. The brain also has to process how fast that light is changing, a metric known as the critical flicker fusion frequency. The human visual system updates at roughly 50 to 60 Hz. A dog's brain processes visual information much faster, between 70 to 80 Hz. You can see the result of this difference if you look at an older television set broadcasting at 60 frames per second. Because our refresh rate is slower, our brain blends those 60 frames into fluid, continuous motion. To a dog, that same screen looks like a rapidly flashing strobe light. This speed comes at a price. The rods enabling high-speed motion detection are wired for sensitivity, not detail, with many rods sharing a single nerve pathway. This makes the dog's vision 4 to 8 times grainier than our own, sacrificing sharp static detail for incredible tracking speed. But the strangest feature of canine vision isn't shared by all dogs. The internal geography of their retina is actually dictated by the length of their snout. Wolves and domestic dogs with long snouts possess something called a visual streak. This diagram of a long-snouted retina displays that streak as a dense horizontal band of ganglion cells. This broad layout allows the animal to scan the entire horizon for movement without turning its head. But in short-snouted breeds like the pug, selective breeding compressed the skull. As the snout shortened, that wide panoramic streak collapsed into a dense central cluster of cells, called an area centralis. Human breeding for a specific facial shape actually reorganized the internal cellular mapping of the dog's retina. The canine eyes surrendered a rich color palette and sharp resolution. In return, it gained biological night vision mirrors and a hyper-fast processing speed. Practically, this means you can stop spending money on bright red and green toys. To your dog, they just blend into the grass. Switch to blue and yellow objects. These colors create maximum contrast against natural backgrounds, catering perfectly to their dichromatic retinas. And when your dog stares intently into a dark yard or completely ignores a standard television screen, they aren't confused. They're processing data that your eyes can't even register. The animal sitting on your couch is navigating the world using the highly specialized hardware of an optimized twilight predator.